So yeah, my name is Eric. I'm a front-end developer at Nuclea. I'm super committed to open source. I love to, use my free time to code stuff, put that on GitHub, so people I don't know anything about can use it, and I make no money. So yeah, that's my thing. I've been contributing to Plone quite a lot. I made several add-ons. I guess if you're using Volto, for example, you're certainly using Miss Developer. Mrs. Developer, I did it initially. I'm still maintaining it, so yeah, that's the kind of stuff I've been doing. So given that, you might think I'm a serious guy. I'm not. So let's go with the talk, but before I start, there is this legal warning I'm supposed to show you. It's a law, so yeah, and by the way, if there are any children or quality insurance engineers, they must leave now. So that's okay? Okay, so let's go with the legal warning. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, seriously, what is AppFab? AppFab is, well, you do remember through the web, right? At the time in Zope, you could, or in Plone, you could create an object, put some Python script in there through the web, so through the web interface. You can call the ZDMI an interface, as I is for interface, believe me. And yeah, you can create a small bit of code and it's live immediately. That's through the web. And it comes with many challenges and many problems, I mean, yeah. And you also know, I guess, how crazy is the front-end stack. The front-end stack is like changing every day and you cannot rely on anything and you're gonna break something at some point, possibly the full internet, remember left pad, right? So AppFab is about merging the two craziness together, right? We move through the web to front-end or front-end to the web, I don't know in which sense, but yeah, that's what it is, right? So it's about chaos, okay? AppFab, it will mess up with your Plone instance. That's a given. You're really not ready for this shit. It's something that will go out of control. If you think you can keep it under control, you should think again, all right? It's like you could consider, okay, I can use a small bit of it, right? Sorry, microdosing AppFab, not a thing. It will not happen like this. It will be invasive, it will be toxic, and the result gonna be ugly no matter what, okay? It's by design that shit will hit the fan, okay? So I urge you, like officially, seriously, to not use AppFab in Plone, okay? Like never. Okay? Now demo of course. So let me switch to the demo. Let's take this sad page on Plone, all right? That's a typical one. I have here the AppFab editor. So the AppFab editor is like this. Well, it could look like the ZDMI, why not? I mean, it allows you to edit small snippet of code. So this one is doing something very simple. It makes a button, you click on it, it increments. Okay, that's a typical example you find for all the frameworks and whatever. Well, you can edit that live, right? You can change it to 2, for example, and I save, and now it goes about 2, or I can change the CSS, or maybe the HTML or whatever, and whenever I save, it works, okay? That's your editor. So you edit something, you create a component like this, it's good, and you get its address, right? Its URL. So you take this path, and you will just enter it into a Volto block, okay? This is a Volto block, AppFab component block, and you just passed here the corresponding path you got from your editor. And you can reach the editor directly here, there is a shortcut. And when you save it, you get this fantastic result, right? Oh, it's not up to date, sorry. now by 2, and with the change. So it's live, it's on your website. So that's a simple demo. Of course, you might not consider that useful. But look, this other one. Yeah? That's cool, no? Because it displays the time. So it's super useful for users, right? It's done with SVG, basic SVG. It's something I copy-paste, of course, because you can take any sheet from internet, from Stack Overflow, or even from ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT, I want an SVG clock. It do something, you copy-paste, you don't read, right? And you put it on your editor. I did it. I mean, where is it? It's by there, right? My clock is there. So I have no idea what the code is about. It's there, right? And same for the rest. It just works. And I put it here, it's live. So, well, this demo, okay, you might consider now, okay, this is kind of interesting. I can do SVG. Let's move to the next one. Okay, that's a square. You might think it's a stupid square. Yeah, I'm sure you're thinking that, but look, I can click it and move. I drag it to the left, drag it to the right, and it rotates at the same time. If I let it go, it goes back to the middle. I mean, now you can, I know you're thinking it's useful. No? I want your full attention, I'm going to do it again. I click, and drag, and it rotates. And now let it go. Right? No? You're not convinced. I feel like you're not convinced. Yeah. I mean, I have the final demonstration of how useful AppFab can be. Here we go. It's empty, right? But I move my mouse to the corner. So that's, I mean, right? That's useful. That's probably the best feature landed on Plone for decades. I haven't been around much those last years, but I mean, this is huge. Look. I mean, it works, right? This deployment, immediate, right? Imagine you have to do that with Volto. Just imagine. The number of declarations you have to do. The build, the different files you have to fill in, etc. Declare the new Volto block, blah, 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 and then build it, deploy, run all the chain of everything. I mean, if you know what you're doing, maybe by 1 hour you could have this done. And I'm generous, probably quite optimistic, right? So 1 hour. Imagine you go to your boss or your customer, depending on the case, and you say, yeah, I need 1 hour for the cat thing. They're gonna be mad at you. They're gonna say, what the fuck? 1 hour? 1 hour to deploy a cat on my page? Don't you know that the full web stack is about putting cat on web pages? This should be instant, you moron. So yeah, get angry, and I would say they would be right. They would be right. So, not sure, I mean, who loves to be called a moron by their customers or boss? Not many people, yeah. Well, use AppFab, morons. I mean, that's the way to go. This, 1 second, and you get your cat. All right? So that was about the demo. Let's come back to the presentation. I'm going to explain you how it works. So, you have this editor. The editor is made with AppFab itself. That's an AppFab component served by Plone. So that's all AppFab stuff put together. So you can see it could be a kind of complex application, more than just a cat. I mean, even though the cat is great, I mean, it's a good one. But here there is no cat, but you can edit everything, you can delete, you can manage, you can restructure your stuff, etc. And it's rendered through a Volto block. The Volto block is super, super simple. It's just about taking this URL and rendering it by calling the right corresponding web component. Because all of that is based, I will come back to that later. What you can do with AppFab is manage different assets. So, I don't know, images, stuff like this. You can import external dependencies. I don't know if you need D3, for example, to do magical stuff with SVG, or if you need any kind of library, you can upload it to your AppFab instance. You can create reusable components. So you did the cat once, and you can have many cats. That's a cool thing. And you can sync with a remote file system. So you can develop on your own laptop, manage that with Git and all your favorite IDE and whatever, and then push to production directly through HTTP, okay? And the way it works is you have this editor, which is basically taking the Svelte component, because what I demo you, sorry, coming back to this is not just HTML. This is a better flavor of HTML. It uses a framework called Svelte, which is not really a framework, it's just an extension of HTML, because when you look at it, it looks very much like HTML. You have script tag, you have all the HTML, of course, you can add a style, and all of that, and you see how it manages events. For example, it's a bit simpler, you can have persistence and just better coding, let's say, but you can do just basic JS as well, and basic HTML, basic CSS. It's going to work the same way, right? It does not pollute. It does not impose a way to do stuff. If you're comfortable with vanilla script, you can go that way. But Svelte is just adding a certain level of comfort, let's say. It's super easy to learn. It's like there is almost nothing to learn compared to React or stuff like this. And this is compiled into the browser. When you're editing stuff on the editor, it will compile locally. You don't need npm deploy locally or whatever. It just compiles into the browser because it's super simple framework, so that works that way. And it will produce a JS, and all of that, the Svelte source and the JS, are stored in Plone into a soup. You might have heard about Super for Plone, which is a persistent system, which is extra light. It does not require to create content types to store basic objects. In my case, I just want to store text, right? JS, SVG, CSS, stuff like this, or maybe some binaries like a small GIF or stuff like this. It works perfectly. And then this is going to be served into Volto as a web component. So what the Volto block is doing is just taking the source, which is compiled as a web component, so just instantiating the component. It means it will not interact at all with Volto. You can have whatever version of whatever you want in your Volto site. It could also be rendered elsewhere, in WordPress, in a static HTML page, in Next.js, wherever you want. It's just a web component. So that's atomic. Nothing will pollute it, no CSS, no external JS. It will just work the way it is. That's what it does. And to install it, you have two sides, obviously. You have the Volto side, which is just declaring this block. So just that, plus it contains the source of the editor, which is not a Volto thing. It's implemented in Svelte and as an AppFab component. And the REST API side, which is instantiating the soup instance and the basic API, the REST API you need to store and deliver source. And that's about it. That was short. I told you.
Thank you, Eric. Any question about AppFab?
I'm sorry it was that short.
No, don't worry. Perhaps we can integrate some chess game there.
Yeah, or I can do the Square demo again if you want. I have half an hour, so yeah, I can do that.
Can it persist data like Rapido could?
Sorry?
Can you write data into Plone?
Yes, you can store whatever, JSON. I mean, you can store anything, XML if you want, JSON. It's just a text editor and it will store it. Okay. Then, for now, I think it assumes that it will serve it with a proper MIME type, I think. Yeah, so yes.
I guess what I'm saying is, could you create a form that then submits to the server and then saves data and then retrieves it again?
No. No, we could fix that quite easily, but it's not meant to do that. So, my idea, I've been doing that mostly for fun. I'm using it to do quick demo like this. I mean, the cat thing is enormous, but I also have demo for tomorrow about AI and search and everything. I did it with AppFab because that's much quicker for me rather than going into Volto and declaring stuff and having a proper package and all of that. It's just quicker. So it's good for demo, but if you are considering using it, I told you not to use it, right? You had the legal warning. But if you are considering using it for real stuff, my idea was to store data into content types. So you could use a component, an AppFab component, to render information from a news item or whatever you want. But yes, of course, if you want to store, I mean, there is no technical issue into storing data into the soup. The only problem right now is, as it's meant to be used by the site manager, only the site manager will be able to save the form. We could improve that. Obviously, we can, right? We can check the permission depending on the type of content we are editing. That's a small thing to do. I mean, Rapido was like that. So, yes.
Thank you. Any more?
Can you run Doom?
Yeah, Doom, of course.
So there is a JavaScript you can download, and there is half an hour. You can try to run Doom.
I could. No, yeah, probably would work. Something you should know about performances, though, is that we are using ES6 modules. It means we are not bundling anything. So when you depend on a library, you implement a small library yourself, it will be imported live when you run the component. Okay? Of course, there is cache, so it minimizes the problem with performances, but even though, I mean, it could be sometimes, if you are using, for example, D3, which comes with a lot of different stuff, it could slow down your stuff because the first time you access a D3 graph, it will load each of the small D3 JS file before running the thing. So in that case, it's better to not use AppFab to store D3, but just refer to CDN. But besides that, you can run anything. I mean, it's just HTML and JS. I mean, yeah, it just works the normal way. It just bypass Volto. You don't go into Volto. You just use Volto to render a web component, and the way you do the web component is your business. I like Volto already.
I loved your demo, but for boring customers, can you give us an example of something really complex you did with AppFab?
No, I don't do complex or serious stuff. I mean, generally. And my customers, I'm from, as a living, I'm doing Svelte, but not through AppFab. The purpose of AppFab is in a CMS context. That's the principle of hackability. If you want to be able to hack your CMS to display something because you need it and you're not a great developer, or maybe you're a great developer but you don't want to learn about Volto and about Plone and all those stuff because it takes time. It's not that it's wrong. I mean, it makes sense, it makes time. But if you want to be able to just hack something like you would be on WordPress and you're just an HTML guy, right? You should have a way. I think it frees people. It enables them, it empowers people to be able to do that without learning too long. And that's the purpose of it. So I'm not working in a CMS context. I don't use it. I don't need AppFab. I do that mostly because I love AppFab, the TV show. That's my starting point for the full software. So no, I don't use it. But yeah, it could be usable. Obviously, I mean, it's extremely simple. The amount of code to do that is small. So when it's simple, you might consider it's not risky, I would say. But then, of course, you will end up into problems at some point. Obviously, you might want to integrate with Volto stuff, or you might want to play with the Plone API, which you can do, but then comes some issue with authentication and so on. So yes, always possible, but when you reach a point where what you're doing with the easy thing is as complex as what you can do with the complex thing, use the complex thing. Because then it's clear, then it's manageable. That was basically, I would say, the trouble with Plomino or Rapido, is to try to address very complex stuff on an easy way. There is no magic, unfortunately. So if you want to do very simple thing, like, yeah, typically you want a form with validation, with some kind of animation, stuff like this, that's cool. And so at the time this form start opening subforms and accordions and whatever shit you might imagine, not that much anymore. But, as I say, invasive, toxic.
More?
Thank you for the question, because all of that was missing part of my presentation, I just realized. So, cool.
Okay, thank you then. We will have now a break until 5 that we have the lightning talks, okay? Big applause for Eric, please.
Thank you.